Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome on to Branded. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand. And I'm really, really excited to bring you guys today's guest. We are talking with Arvi Sodhi. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Please correct me. But Arvi is someone that is a new connection. And when I met her, there was just this like really incredible energy about you, this calmness. And I was just immediately drawn in, to be honest. And your whole concept of your nonprofit with GRATUS and connecting people to the things that they need, like it just really spoke to me. And so I'm really excited to have you here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Your actually energy is what drew me to you as well. I think when we met eyes, we just locked, and it was like you're somebody that I need to connect with. I felt really, really comfortable in your presence, and thank you so much for sharing the work that you do, and then inviting me to speak with you today.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited.
Yeah. And you guys, this is like, Arvi has a story that we'll touch a little bit on it, and we're not going to go too far deep into the past. But when I was on the phone with her prior to having this podcast, conversation, I was like blown away by some of the stuff that you were sharing with me and the things that you've experienced and gone through. So I'm going to run through a little bit of who Arvi is and what we can expect to get out of this conversation, and then we're going to dive right in. So Arvi's journey has really been marked with an accident where she almost lost her life back in her 20s. And by overcoming this adversity and, having this experience, she really is proof that resiliency and determination can just be like incredibly powerful tools that we tap into. And of course, born from her personal experience with being told that she was going to be paraplegic and all of these things, she decided to tap into her inner drive and faith and her support system to create a new path for herself and essentially, quite literally, pave new like neuro pathways so that way now she is walking around. She's not paraplegic. She's sort of created this new destiny for herself, and it's just really powerful. So she's got a whole program and a nonprofit and all sorts of things that we're going to dive into. But Arvi, maybe just share with us a little bit about you. And I know you're very multifaceted with the early childhood development and real estate management, human sciences. I mean, the list goes on. So let's get to know you a little bit.
Thank you, Sarah. I think basically when somebody walks up to me and is like, "Hey, Arvi, nice to meet you. Where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself." Just like the, elevator ride or just in public when you meet
Yeah.
somebody, it's like, I mean, basic. I'm an everyday person. I was born in England. My parents emigrated to England. My dad was from India, my mom was from Africa. So they met in England. I was born there. And maybe 2, 3 years later, we moved to Canada. So I was brought up and raised in Canada, and then I met my husband, and I moved here to the States, and where my 2 children have been born, and we're bringing them up here. So basically, you know, just not a crazy story, but just that's my upbringing. That's where I'm from. My my parents are both Punjabi, so we are North Indian. The faith that I practice is Sikhism. So I practice Sikhi. I am Sikh, and that's where I pull my strength from. That's where that's the upbringing that I had with my parents. My parents were strong in their faith. I didn't realize how strong I had become in my faith and how that brought me to where I am. And I believe that the road was paved for me. I just didn't know it. Like my eyes have to be opened up to certain things. So the more I realize that, the more I'm like, really don't have control over things. I just, if it feels good to me, and if it feels like, if an opportunity comes and it feels like it's the right one, I use my gut. I use my instincts, and I use just like you and I connected. That's exactly how I've been living my life, and it has proved to be so far very good and very successful. For the small struggles that I have, I feel like they are so small sacrifices. The struggles that I deal with, yes, they are every day, they are chronic, um, but they're the small sacrifices for everything else that's wonderful in my life.
Yeah. Well, and you make a really good point whenever you mentioned, like, it's not necessarily in your control, but you have allowed yourself to operate within that realm of choice. Like, so you aren't necessarily trying to control every little bits and pieces of your life, but you're understanding that if there's something that presents itself to you, you allow yourself to live in that moment of choice to say, this does feel really aligned. I'm going to go ahead and see it through. Or maybe
Yeah.
this doesn't feel like it's for me right now. And I think that's a really powerful thing because I've been doing a lot of that myself over the last about 12 months or so, where I've been paying very close attention to the actions that I'm taking, whether it was intentional that I meant to do something, and, so creating that awareness essentially around everything too, and really releasing the control and kind of just trusting that the universe, or, whatever you want to call it, it really does have your back. Like when you really allow and you trust and you place yourself in that realm of choice and not in this like reaction mode, it's really beautiful the things that can happen.
I agree. I agree. And when you start sensing the things that are happening and you start realizing that you open up your inner eyes basically.
Hmm.
And when you start walking, it's like things just happen and you're like, oh, but I thought of that, or I wanted that, or I really thought that that would work, and here it is working out, here it is playing out,
Yeah.
or I had always imagined that I would have this and now I do have it. So when you become aware to those type of things, you can actually see, okay, well, if there's a vision out there and if there is a calling and it was meant for me, how do I go and make it happen? Because the it didn't go to everybody. Everybody got their own individual call. It's not a
Yeah.
conference call. However, there are a lot of people out there that resonate with the same vibe.
Hmm.
So when you start really going deeper inside of you, a healing process, basically, if something has happened, if you've been through a trauma, if you've been through situations, if anything that's happening, and you go back deep inside of you to find out what's going on and figure out, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Is there something that I need to do to align myself? The more you know about what's going on inside of you, the more when opportunities present themselves, like, oh, that one was for me. That I need to go there. It's so ironic because just a small story. I was at an event, and the event was, you go in and you get a ticket for a raffle prize, like a door entry prize. And when I sat down, I'm like, oh, that prize is so for me. Like, I need to go there.
Yeah.
And I won it. I won the raffle. I took my daughter to it, and the experience that we went to was totally not what I expected. But it opened my eyes up to how, like, it was just synchronicities. It opened
Yeah.
up my eyes to things that I wanted to see, things that I wish I had, like it was just, you've got to be just open to receiving. A lot of the way that I operated in my business was very on the masculine energy. I knew what I wanted. I went and got it. I pushed, I controlled, I managed in a different way. Once I let that go, I look back and I'm like, there are many different ways that I could have handled things in my business,
Yeah.
in my businesses. There's many different ways that I could have handled things, but I handled them the way that I did at that time. That was the season that I was in, and where I am now today is a different season, is a different place. So whatever is coming to me now is coming to me from a different perspective, and
Yeah.
I accept what's coming to me, and I'm grateful for what's coming to me. And that could be something that is we perceive as it's a negative. Like if the battery on my car, died, I'm like, oh, shoot, no, I welcome it. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be sitting right here, right now. I'm not supposed to go somewhere. I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to be where I'm headed. I have to be here right now. So it's a different perspective. Um, Same thing with you, Sarah. How many times have we booked this call?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys, Arvi was sick, and then I was sick, and then it was just like, and then seriously, getting onto this call, technology was
Yeah,
not in our favor. It took us
yeah,
about 30 minutes to get the audio working. Like sometimes things just don't
yes,
operate exactly as intended, and that's okay. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right. It's a
yeah.
whole new perspective of
It's
living.
right. And so you just become okay with that and you're like, well, this is the time that we're supposed to have together.
Hmm.
This is now. It wasn't before. It's now.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I have learned a couple of things in the past several months that we needed to talk about today. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Um, and okay, so I want to talk to you. So you've had a couple different businesses along the way. Um, Talk to us a little bit about what life sort of looked like before you got into some of these businesses, or maybe just what it kind of looked like leading up to you really leaning into your gratis program
Okay.
and all of the things that you've got going on.
Okay, great. Yeah. I obtained my real estate license before I was married, so in Canada, and I was working with investment properties with my parents, and so that was my where I was at. So when I got married, I jumped right into that over here as well. After a few months of hiatus, and then we jumped back into business with the family. But what that led me to is really the real estate. Navigating the world here, navigating a new life here, learning how to be a family, sorry, a wife in my family. So all of those things is what I was navigating. A new place, I had just moved, so that's what was life before,
Mhm.
the preschool and gratis. Real estate has always been enjoyable for me. I love it. I love to visualize. I love to develop things. I love to create something out of, um, rundown homes or, just the relationships that you make with people. I really did love that part. And um, I never imagined it like a job. It was just something that I was doing. It was a hobby. And the money would come. The money would come. It was something that I was not focused on. But I was running a crazy rushed lifestyle when I had the two children. My two children came about 3 years after we got married, and they came back to back, so 18 months apart.
Mm.
And there were some challenges there.
Yeah.
And I ran around like crazy, like any parents do, and they try to, manage their business. What I did was I forgot about my health completely. I ignored myself. I ignored the red flags. I ignored, um, what was going on inside of me. When I needed to push, I just pushed through a lot of it. So that really helped me feel like I can do anything, because the experiences that I was experiencing personally in my body, I was really disconnected from it. I was not connected with what
Yeah.
was going on with me. I was more focused on my children, my family, my businesses. It was just very much like that. Um, and then the opportunity came to start focusing back on my health. My children were a little bit older, and but I didn't know I was jumping into taking care of my health really. So I had a really really crazy summer in 2016, like a lot of ups. One of the best experiences, summer of 2016, and just liquidating the businesses, the real estate that we had, and an opportunity came up just like crazy, to purchase a preschool that my children were at.
Mm.
And so we went for it. At first, we were not, because we were focused on what we already had. And eventually, the way it happened is that we put in an offer for the school. It didn't go through right away, and it went through the auction house.
Mm.
So the government had foreclosed on the school, and we were like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to purchase it. Ironically, the businesses that I had that summer were liquidating, so I was liquid with cash.
Yeah.
And I went to the courthouse and I purchased the school at the auction. So
That's wild.
the
Yeah.
yeah, so here I am with a new business, and we're, telling, notifying the parents and the teachers and the staff, and the teachers who were teachers to my children and had helped me raise my children are now my employees. So navigating all of that. Um, and I think one of the hardest things for me at that moment was deciding what was more important, my business or myself. And I went in for a surgery for myself, which completely took me out. So I ended up in my second health trauma in my life, and that was very tough to navigate out of, while trying to run the school that we had just purchased, and my kids were starting. My daughter was starting grade 1 at a new school. It was a lot going on, so the body just didn't want to cooperate, and I really needed to focus on myself. I didn't have a choice. I was in the hospital. I didn't have a choice to
Yeah.
focus on myself. So I learned a lot about navigating through that traumatic incident, the medically, I had an allergy to a medication that put me in toxic levels, and I went into a coma. And then coming out of that, I was on a lot of medication and needed to detox from that. And I went to pain rehabilitation. And I realized who are the support in my life, where that
Yeah.
comes from. And when you're down, even though you have so much support about you, around you, how to pull out that faith from inside of you and say, okay, no, like I need help. I need help. Please help me, to open up to receiving that help. So I think that was when I changed. That was probably when I changed from masculine energy to feminine energy, where I started to receive a lot more, and I
Yeah.
became okay with letting things go. I became okay with dishes being in the sink. I became
Mhm.
okay with, the toilet paper not folded and the towels not folded. Just all of those things, I kind of just let them because there was no choice, you
Yeah.
know? So less controlling and more aware of what's in store for me, where I am in the present moment, um, and realizing that what what I had at that moment is a gift, and what
Mm.
I've had and what I was about to lose, those are gifts.
Yeah.
Um, so that um, I forget the question.
I mean, I'm like enthralled. I'm here. I'm hearing all of it. We were just talking about life, like what your life looked like prior to Gratis and all of that.
Yeah. So while I was in the early childhood, I had mentors and I learned a lot. I trained a lot, and I learned from my staff, the parents. I learned from the students, and I learned that a lot of people are struggling out there and they don't have the support that they need.
Yeah.
Um, More than countless times, my office became a counseling therapy session for people, and I just found myself more and more drawn to caring about people and the mental wellness of people, including my own, and really diving deep inside of me and being like, okay, where are the places that I need help? Where can I get that help? Access the best of what I need to access. And my husband helped with really figuring out the healthcare part.
Yeah.
And the business part is like you learn how to become resilient in your life and you apply it to business, right? You
Yeah.
learn how to start something and you start within yourself, like, okay, this is a new chapter within me. So it's all very, very much tied, how I navigated business and how I navigated my personal wellness. Um, it's like, how can I say, very much the way you are as a person, you have to let go of that duality. So
Hmm.
how I am as a person and how I show up in business and how I show up outside and how I show up with you, how I show up with my kids, how I show up with my families, you've got to be aligned in all those areas.
Yeah.
Because if there's something that's not aligned, it's not going to make you feel good. You're going to feel it in your body. You're going to feel it somewhere, and you're going to cause some sickness.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I do struggle from a lot of health issues, but I'm also figuring out, where is that coming from? What is it? Where does the stress happen? How am I holding it? Which people in my life bring that? Which people do I now need to say I love you, but maybe we're going to take a little bit of a of lack of love, but because of love,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So many things. Okay. So, first off, I just want to say, like, I definitely, having experienced a trauma, I can firsthand, like, witness the change of like that masculine energy to the feminine energy. I've seen it, I've felt it, I've experienced it personally with my own experiences, and being able to witness that in somebody else and understanding that, like, yes, you could have a support system of tens, thousands, hundred, whatever, right? You could have a huge support system of people around you, but if you're not tapping into your own inner beliefs
Yeah.
and strengths and exploring the parts of you that maybe you've never unearthed before, you're not really going to start to get that forward momentum. And I feel like that's just a common thread through every trauma that I've ever witnessed or experienced. You have to be able to dive inward and
Yeah.
start asking those questions. And of course, it's helpful to have a support system. Like, of course, that's helpful, but
Yeah.
it is not the thing that pulls you through.
Yeah. Yeah.
It never will be, right? And
Yeah.
so I find that to just be so fascinating. And whenever we had our conversation a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how, like, you were laying in the hospital bed and you were told you were going to be paraplegic, and you were like told all of these things that were just going to be your new reality, and you said to yourself, like, that's just not going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
I want something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Wanting something, and you don't, so let me clarify, it doesn't have to be a trauma, right?
Right.
It doesn't, you can wake up and say, you know what, today is going to be different. What am I going to change today? It doesn't have to be the way that it is. You
Mhm.
can now make it something else. When I went through rehabilitation, it was your A life is what's before, B life is what you're going through, the trauma and what's happening, and then C, what's your
Mm.
C life, right? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And that can change. And I try to do that every 90 days where I look at myself and I'm like, okay, what am I going to improve on? What am I going to work on? Where am I going to lack? Where am I lacking? Where am I going to go forward? And it's my choice. It's by
Yeah.
choice, right? It's
Yeah.
by choice that I include people or I disinvite
Or don't.
people.
Right.
Right. So into my life
Mm-hmm.
because I know what makes me feel good and I know what is aligned with me. I know I know when I go into certain spaces, it hurts. It hurts like crazy. And that's on my body. I feel things in my body. So when you become aligned with what feels good with you, it's definitely easier. So that's not to say that I'm like 100% expert at, upholding my boundaries. I'm the worst person at upholding my boundaries. Like I really am. And it's something that you learn constantly. We're constantly learning. And
Yeah.
and that's the faith that I belong to, that I'm constantly learning. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And I never will, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm learning these things, it's like, okay, well, how can I continue to improve that? How can I make things a little bit better? And as I'm learning, I'm the kind of person that wants to show somebody else, like, hey, look, I just figured this out. You can use it. You can use this tool. Maybe it'll apply. Maybe it'll help you out.
Yeah.
And that's where GRATUS comes into play. So
Mm.
with GRATUS, the nonprofit organization that I opened came out of all of the experiences that I've had, and through collaboration and through communicating with um, people and friends and the partners that I have built along the way to really build up GRATUS and to continue going in the future. We've got so many ideas, and it takes a team to do the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but really, it came out of understanding that there was a need for mental awareness. There's a need to reduce the stigma around it. Why is it that there was things that I felt and was going through that I couldn't talk to certain people about it, and
Yeah.
still, right? So that's where GRATUS comes in. We've had last year 4 events, very lovely to interact with the people and the partners that we made and the support that's out there in our community is crazy. Like really, really, everybody is, you speak to them and they're like, yes, we're on board. How can we help create a community of wellness,
Yeah.
where we're healing ourselves and healing others?
Hmm.
So that leads me into the first event of this coming year, on January 17th. It's called I Am Informed. So being informed, becoming aware, understanding like, okay, did I experience something maybe in my childhood that's affecting me now? Is there a reason why I'm doing this? And so there are those who are like, you don't need to dwell too much in the past. Like there's nothing that's good that's coming out of, going back and back and back into the past. And yeah, there is something to say for that too. But I'm of the opinion that if there is something that's blocking the road in the future, then let's dig into the history a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
open up those chapters that need to be reread and figure out what's going on so that you can go back into the future and be like, okay, well, I'm here, I'm ready. That's dealt with. Don't need to deal with that
Yeah.
again. I'm here, I'm present. Whatever triggers are coming up, why are they coming up? And then recognizing that in other people. Recognizing when you're speaking about awareness and vibrations, and you speak to the people that are also speaking the same language, it's so much easier to work together. It's so much easier to communicate with each other. There's no resistance. And where there is resistance, it's like, okay, let's talk about this. What happened here? This
Hmm.
is okay. And you're able to get through it. So I think that's all of that is what led me to Gratis and led me to seek out people who were interested in sharing the vision, um, to create the program. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's such a fascinating chain of events how, your story is very similar to thousands of other people's stories,
Yeah.
right? Like the
Yeah.
details are different,
Yeah.
but having grown up a certain way, having a particular, thought patterns or just, conditioned beliefs, creating a life that you sort of felt was the one that you quote unquote should have, finding that you fall into some sort of trauma or illness or just stuckness, right? Like it
Yes.
could be on all sorts of
Yes.
points of the spectrum, and recognizing you want something different for yourself. And sometimes those things come out of the most unexpected places. Like you guys bought a school. Like, was that ever on your radar?
No.
Right? Like, how out of left field did that
Yeah.
feel at the time that now
Yeah.
you look back at it and you're like, wow, this was such a pivotal point in the journey to creating Gratis, to getting me to this place where I get to truly do the apex of the thing that I love,
Yeah.
which is connecting people to what they need, whether that
Yeah.
is mental health, whether that is another human, whether that's a business. And honestly, that was something that I could see in you from like the moment I met you, when I saw that your business was Gratis, right? That was like kind of that was the purpose or whatever, one of the reasons we had met was that was one of the conversation pieces. And it just fit. It just made sense. Whenever I met you and I spoke to you, just the short time that we got to speak together, and seeing what your business was and just the premise of it, I was like, this makes sense. This
Yeah.
is full alignment. Like,
Yeah.
it was really beautiful. And it is
Thank
really
you.
beautiful
Thank
to
you.
see.
Thank you so much, because it's reinforcing that the need is there. The purpose is to get people connected, to get them to the resources that they need when they're struggling, right? When you're
Yes.
struggling, you don't even know what you need sometimes. So my goal is really to have all of these resources present in the room, have people make the connections that I need in order to, when somebody says, hey, this is what I can recognize that they're going through something, and that I have a resource that can help them,
Yeah.
right? And the resources are oftentimes I have most times I have used them myself. I
Hmm.
have gone through the experience so that I can share with somebody and say, this is how it's going to be, or if you need me, I'm there for you. Yes, I'll go with you. Yes, I'll tell you about it. Yes, I'll find another person for you. And the more I navigate my networking, shall we say, that way, it's so crazy that when I meet people that are able to provide a service to somebody else, I happen to meet somebody who needs that exact service.
Isn't that the coolest?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And so if I'm talking, so this name just comes into my mind right now, and I'm going to have to call her to see how she's doing. Um, because I was talking to her and we were talking about mold toxicity. I
Mm,
have mold toxicity. It's a struggle every day to deal with that, right?
yeah.
And then somebody else is telling me, I think I have it, I may have it. And then for me to be able to like, I've got the resources for this because I didn't know that I had it when I found out. Then I was able to get the resources. Don't go through all that. Don't struggle through that. I've got the resource. Get healthy quicker,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Why I feel that if I have struggled and I have had so much pain in my life, I hope that I've taken it away from somebody else. And that's what makes me comforted and okay with what I have. And I become grateful.
Yeah.
I become grateful for the chronic conditions because I feel that I've eliminated or reduced it for somebody else. And that is the sacrifice that I'm making. So I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. I'm grateful for that. Thank you
Yeah.
for giving that to me. Thank you for making me strong enough to take on whatever, because I believe we're one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all connected. So if I'm taking the pain away from somebody else, it's because I'm strong enough to handle it. I've
Right.
got, I've got, I don't know, 13, 14 diagnoses. Maybe I'm helping, I don't know how many people, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And what I have to do is make myself stronger. And I make myself stronger by reducing the chaos, reducing the toxic, reducing the noise, expressing my boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
talking about my limitations. Because if I'm reducing that, I'm becoming stronger. And
Yeah.
if I'm becoming stronger, I can take on more.
Yeah. And it really, like, this point of view, and I think this is why just energetically you and I were immediately aligned, is because we have this sort of same point of view when it comes to experiencing something, expressing vulnerability, opening yourself up to things that are a little bit unknown. Neither one of us tend to do it from a place of like martyrdom or victimhood where it's like, hey, look at me and look at all the things that I've gone through. It's
Right.
never ever been about that. It's been
Right.
about, like you said, I'm experiencing this because clearly I can handle it. I am someone who is solution focused enough to be able to find these solutions, whereas some people just aren't. They don't have those skills. Maybe they were never taught them. Maybe it's just not a strength, right? And
Yeah.
that's okay.
That's
Everybody has their
okay.
own
Yes.
things that they're good at. And something you're fabulous at is understanding, like, it's not about, um, continuous research, always, 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 always researching. But it's really like it boils down to being open and aware to everything that's around you and understanding that if you get a little like ping that this could be something helpful in your life, you know for a fact it's going to help somebody else in their
Yeah.
life because
Right.
of that oneness. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It's
Man.
so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm so drawn automatically to that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like our eyes locked in, it happens, it happens. And then if, for example, if I'm in a room of 100 people and I lock eyes with somebody and I leave the event and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't get to connect. I guarantee you I'm meeting that person again
Yeah.
because it's just the way it works. It's so
Mm-hmm.
weird, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, you get into that same frequency. It's like
Yeah.
tuning into the same radio station.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
fuzz, there's no static.
Yeah.
You hear each other, you
Yeah.
connect, and that's what it is. And yeah, it really is this wild thing that once you have that perception and that point of view of just your day to day, it's crazy the amount of people that you'll start coming in contact with. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
my whole last 12 months, it's been insane. And I'll just recently actually I came into contact with someone who I haven't really talked to in about 6 or 8 months or so. And she asked me, She's like, how have you been? You look like you've been crazy busy. You're meeting all sorts of new people. And I was like, well, honestly, I've probably been working, quote unquote, a little bit less than I was a year ago. I've figured out how to receive. Like, yeah, I'm having way more conversations with new people, with existing friendships than I've ever had before. I have never met so many new people in the last year that I have, you know what I mean? Like, in all of my 36 years, I have met more new people in 2023 than ever before. And it's just like this hyper speed of growth that was allowed to happen. It's almost like it's just been sitting there waiting for me to be like, okay, now go.
Yeah, yeah, because there's so much out there, but you have to be ready in order to get it.
Yeah.
And I say it so many times to people. I'm like, are you ready? If somebody knocks at your door, are you ready to go? Right? And oftentimes I'm not.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not. I'm going through something, and that's okay too. That
Mm-hmm.
is so okay to go back and to hibernate. There is a season to do that, um, and not and shut your doors out to everything. But once you have dealt with what you're dealing with and you open the door, are you ready?
Yeah.
If somebody says, "Let's go to the beach right now," are you ready? Are you ready to literally get in the car and go? Or you have to go back in the shower? Do you have to go back in the house and do
Yeah.
something? But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like just be ready to receive, and it comes. And there
Yeah.
are opportunities that are waiting for you, but you have to do the work. And
Mm-hmm.
the work is often very, very tough. It's not an
Yeah.
easy road, you
Yeah.
know. There's tears involved. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And that's where the support comes in. So look to
Right.
see, where can we support you? How can we help? Can we connect you to somebody? And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm naturally drawn to people, um, and I want to be healthy enough to do that, right? Ironically, yeah, I'm naturally drawn to the people who do need something,
Yeah.
and then I definitely want to be healthy enough, and ready
Mm-hmm.
for when that door knocks. That yeah, I've got the resources. I can help. I'm there. I'm 100% all the way, and that it does not bring me down. It does not, it's not like a vampire on my energy.
Yeah.
I really I have an abundance to give.
Mm-hmm.
And that's we talk about like taking care of yourself first and then taking care of others. It's so true though, and you don't have to look at it as just like one cup. You look at it as like several cups. I've got one cup for me. I've got one for my house. I've got one for my spouse. I've got one for
Mm-hmm.
my kids. I've got one, but I've got to make sure that mine is taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's actually for me the way that I'm able to go out and do seva. Do my seva is a Sanskrit word. It means like selfless service, to give back
Mm-hmm.
to it's not even giving back, it's just giving,
Right. Just
you
showing
know
up, being
just
there.
yeah, just yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So to do that in my life, the more I'm doing for myself, the more I'm taking care of the things I need to take care of. There is a season where I won't be able to do as much as I did at one time. And there is a season where I'll be able to do a lot more than I did at one time. It all depends on how well I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah.
So it's really crazy how those things are connected.
It really is. And I think it's just that's one of my biggest passions in doing this podcast and having these conversations is to help people recognize, like, if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you want something different, if you've been through some traumas and you don't know how to get through it, get out of it, what questions to ask. Like, that is one of the main reasons I decided to shift this podcast from being just me talking to a mic to having conversations with other people that are at various stages of their businesses, right? Some people have gone through multiple variations of business and, they're highly successful and they're making tons of money. And some people, it has nothing to do with the money, and it's all about bringing people together, and it's all about the connections and the programs and all of the things. And some people are just getting started and they have the idea and they're incredibly passionate about it, and they're learning how to navigate having a 9 to 5 and building a business, having a family and building a business, right? Like, so that I'm just so passionate about bringing people to connect them to the things that they need in my own way. And I just love that you also are doing this in your own way and with your own point of view. And I just think it's really, really fabulous. So, what's something that we can keep our eyes open for? So, we'll put it in the show notes for you guys so you can get some more details on the Gratis nonprofit and her upcoming program on January 17th, right?
Yes, yes. I'm excited to start the new year with I Am Informed, which is the title of the event. It's on January 17th. We're sponsored by Advent Health, so it's an Advent Health campus here in Altamont. And yeah, to find more information on Facebook, it's backslash with Gratus, WITH, Gratus, GRATUS. So that's the easiest way to get all the information and to connect with me as well. What's exciting me about this next event is hoping that I can address with the people in the room that a trauma does not have to be a huge, significant event.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, those are traumas, but there are things that happen to people seemingly who have had the best and easiest of lives, that have experienced something in their childhood that has triggered them and got them stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
those are also traumas. It could be a one-time event, it could be a consisting, it could be the way you were raised through no fault of the parents because that is what they knew.
Right.
Right, it's fine. It's they love their children, but they don't know something that they did maybe that
Mm-hmm.
triggered or that got stuck, because we don't see the world as a 4, 5, 6, 8 years old when we're parenting. We see the eyes through a different world, so we don't know the words that we've said or the things that we've done that maybe stay in our children's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that this event opens eyes to those kinds of traumas as well,
Yeah.
and the spectrum of trauma, basically. So
Yeah.
range of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm hoping that the next event will showcase for the audience, so that they can recognize it, something in themselves, something in others around them, create that awareness, and most importantly, recognize their own actions towards their children.
Yeah.
I think because I have a strong sense about the future and our responsibility towards the future. So when we're raising our children and the next generations, it's up to us, just like it was up to the parents and the ancestors before us. They, ancestors, if you look at how much they have sacrificed, the conditions that they lived through, the things that they experienced, and I lean onto that. I lean into that when you spoke about martyrdom and victim, and
Mm-hmm.
that to me is like I lean into my faith and those that have sacrificed for me in order for me to live the life that I'm living, or the country that I'm living in.
Mm-hmm.
Those that have sacrificed for us to be living this free life. So why not do the best that we can with it,
Yeah.
so that we're raising the next generations to be aware, to be less traumatized, to
Mm-hmm.
be happy, to have fun, and to share, to develop more of that community and connection. So that's really, I guess, the motivation. Like, why do I do things? There's many reasons why I've done things, and I think we could pick out a few from just this podcast alone. Just unknowingly, I've said so many things that have motivated me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the future, the
Yeah.
future is very important. And how am I going to leave this earth, knowing that my future is here, right?
Right.
So planting the seeds now for trees that I may never see the fruit on. I
Mm-hmm.
may, but I know that I'm doing the work that I need to do.
Yeah. Well, and for me, that really just boils down to, enlightenment is a choice. Like you said, people can't be woken up to something if they're not ready for it. And I feel like that's very much the path that you're sort of laying out with Gratis. And getting people connected to these communities of people is, I mean, you're allowing them the choice of enlightenment to say, like, it's okay no matter what spectrum of trauma you're on, like, just because maybe you didn't experience something that almost brought you to death, that doesn't mean it has less significance, because it still could be affecting your life in such a way as someone who was almost brought to death. Like, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
being able to tap into all of those moments that are quite literally creating our futures, like
Yeah.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
super powerful. Man, this is
Yeah.
so good. I could obviously this, I could talk to you for hours.
Oh,
um Thank you so much for being here, Arvi. I really truly appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to put everything in the show notes so you guys can explore Gratis and get to know Arvi and really just connect with her. I mean, isn't she the sweetest soul? Like,
thank
anything
you.
else
Thank
that
you
you'd
so
like as
much.
we sign off?
You know what? It's so funny. Earlier today, I received a phone call from somebody who is selling newspaper, and I told them when I answered the call, they were basically saying, "Do you want the newspaper delivered to your house?" And I said, "Well, I already receive it online, so I don't need it at the door. I would like to start that up again, actually, with my kids and have them read the paper, but at this moment, I don't need it." Oh, my son, he's brought me lunch.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So I said to the lady, I don't need it at the moment, but thank you so much. And before she hung up, she said, I really got to tell you something. You're the kindest voice that I've heard. Like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That she speaks to hundreds of people, and it's just a job. And thank you for being so kind. And that kind of reminded me, like, when people say, like, be kind to people, you don't know who needs it.
Yeah.
Like, just be kind. What's the big deal? Why be
Right.
upset at somebody? Why be mean? Why look at them with those eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Because you sense it. You sense
Yeah.
it. So I think, as a parting message, the last thing that I would like to say is, you really don't know what other people are going through. You really don't know. And if you're interested and if you want to be there with them, take the time to be there.
Yeah.
Um, but if not, just kindness is all that's requested,
Mm-hmm.
and a nice word. That's it. And if not, then don't even look with those mean eyes. Just don't do it. People
Yeah.
can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah, it really does. Your energy resonates, whether you believe in that kind of thing or not. It doesn't really matter because it's true and it's a fact of life. Your energy resonates through the phone, through Zoom links, all of these things. So
Yeah.
yeah, what a fantastic message. Arvi, thank you so much again. And you guys, I'll see you in the next episode. And I hope that you enjoyed this. Of course, rate and review so we can keep bringing you all the good stuff. We'll see you later.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.